At 23 years old, your passion for life knows no bounds. Your mind is wide open to challenges and a thirst for adventure. As a 23-year-old, you've got the world by the tail, and nothing can stop you. Except him. Mark William Roffel was 23 years old and didn't have a chance. On March 13, 1996, a drunk driver couldn't even read his speedometer. It read 150 kilometers an hour. The law failed Mark Roffel. The driver who killed Mark had no license, no insurance, and was double the legal blood alcohol limit. We advocate zero tolerance. Ask about the zero tolerance petition. We're collecting signatures to take to the House of Commons in hopes that the criminal code be changed. .08 is unacceptable. Help us get drunks off our roads. Call 604-671-5900 for information about zero tolerance, the new attitude on the street.
Into something good. Their son Mark was killed by a drunk driver last year, and now his entire family wants to change the law to try to protect others. I'll speak to Mark's father, Ken Roffel, in just a couple of minutes. And in our last half hour today, why retraining programs for loggers are being swamped with new applicants. Coming up, a Lower Mainland family launches a nationwide campaign against drinking and driving.
At 23 years old, your passion for life knows no bounds. Your mind is wide open to challenges and a thirst for adventure. As a 23-year-old, you've got the world by the tail, and nothing can stop you. Except him. Mark William Roffel was 23 years old and didn't have a chance. On March 13, 1996, a drunk driver couldn't even read his speedometer. It read 150 kilometers an hour. The law failed Mark Roffel. The driver...
Ken Roffel created the ad you just heard after his 23-year-old son, Mark, was killed by a drunk driver. The ad is part of a cross-Canada campaign to try to change the laws with regard to drinking and driving. Ken Roffel is with me in the studio. Good afternoon.
Thank you for inviting me to talk about drinking and driving and promoting our zero tolerance campaign, Catherine.
Tell me a little bit about what happened on March 13th, 1996. What happened to your son?
Mark was killed by a driver who had a blood alcohol double the legal limit, and what we decided right after that was to turn a negative into a positive and find out how we, as a family, could make a change and see that drinking drivers are off the road permanently or for some time.
That ad that we just heard just a moment ago is part of that campaign. What's the message that you're trying to get out there?
Zero tolerance with respects to drinking and driving. We're asking for a change in the criminal code, section 253 and 254, by way of petition to the House of Commons, and see if we can get that 0.08 taken out of the criminal code and make it zero tolerance with respects to drinking and driving.
Why?
Well, through some research that we did, we found that the vast majority of Canadians, and particularly in the Lower Mainland, have no idea what the 0.08 is. I take our big truck out every weekend, and I still talk to many people that have no idea what or how many beers or wine or alcohol you can consume in order to get to the 0.08. I hear everything from 4 beers an hour to 3 beers an hour to 2 wines an hour, and I often think to myself, if consumers or Canadians have no idea what 0.08 is, why take a chance on drinking and driving? So what we're asking the House of Commons to do is to eliminate the 0.08 from the criminal code and make it zero tolerance, because in that same vein, a lot of people know that zero tolerance is no drinking and driving, and that's what we're promoting.
So it's not up for debate at that point?
No.
Why do you think that it's important to go that far and to say to people it's not okay even if you have 1 beer before you get behind the wheel?
Well, the different levels of impairment, even after 1 beer, whether it's a light beer, quote, or whether it's a stronger beer, studies have shown scientifically that the level of impairment exists, and rather than taking a chance, because we're all built differently, we all absorb alcohol differently, and it functions differently in each of us, rather than taking a chance on permitting even one drink, it's best to make it zero tolerance. I use the analogy of airline pilots as a great example. 24 hours prior to taking off, an airline pilot is allowed no alcohol, not one drink, because of the effects that that one drink can have.
And yet, truck drivers or bus drivers or people who just get behind the wheels of their cars can drink up to a limit according to the law.
Right. They can actually go up to 0.08 if you know what that is.
Do you know what it is? What would it mean for someone like you, an average-sized man?
Well, back in the 50s and 60s, when the government changed the drinking and driving, we had drunk driving and we had impaired driving. It was based on an average Canadian weighing 175 pounds with an 18% body fat to lean and roughly 2 ounces in 1 hour
of alcohol consumed.
Right. But we're not all 175 pounds. I think I'm 21% body fat to lean, and I have no little meter built into my hand that says, Ken, you're at 0.05, and one more drink will put you way over 0.08. So I'm really promoting no drinking and driving. We're not against drinking. People can drink all they want, but just don't get behind the wheel of a vehicle. And for that, we're asking for stiff penalties if you do choose to drink and drive.
Do you know why we have a law that says that 0.08 is acceptable?
No, I don't, Catherine. I can only assume that many years ago when that law was brought in, it was brought in by judges and lawyers and politicians who felt that most Canadians would be responsible enough to say after one or two drinks and giving Canadians the benefit of the doubt by saying after one or two drinks, no more drinking and driving, and then move on. But I'm not sure if that's the right answer or not. But I'm thinking that might be pretty close to it.
We heard a little bit of the message that you're trying to get out with a public ad campaign. What else are you doing as a family to try to address this and to try to get this zero tolerance idea out there?
Wherever we go, through our friends and through where my family works. My wife is in the teaching profession, and our two oldest boys are in various careers of their own. And we try to set the example of designated drivers and also always constantly talking about zero tolerance. And
you mentioned the big truck earlier.
Yes.
What is the big truck?
Well, I have a big truck on the road that has a picture of my son Mark on one side, on both sides actually, and it says, "A drunk driver killed our son. We need to change the laws to keep drunks off the road, and please sign our petition." And my goal is to collect 300,000 signatures, and then Randy White from the Reform Party has offered to present our petitions to the House of Commons in May, and our goal is to collect as many signatures in this market as possible, and then we move on to Kamloops and Calgary, Regina, Winnipeg, Northern Ontario, Toronto, and
right
then
across
to Ottawa. Right.
What kind of response do you get from people as they see you wheel up in your truck and as you start to spread your message?
Excellent. There's a new attitude on the street regarding drinking and driving, and folks are very supportive. It takes me about 5 minutes to set the truck up and pull the petitions out, and I try and find a high traffic area, and then people pull in and sign the petition and are very supportive. What
do you think Mark would think?
Well, I've been asked that. Mark was always, we've always thought that we teach our children our values and our lifestyle, but we had learned an awful lot from Mark during his lifetime. Mark was always of the opinion, you can turn a negative into a positive, and I use that language now. And he often said to us, and I haven't got the exact wording down, but it was something to the effect, it's better to try and do something than do nothing and wish that you had done something. And at Mark's funeral, many people that our family did not know came up to the pulpit and gave testimony to that of the work that Mark had done. He worked with the homeless downtown. He worked at the Harbor Lights feeding folks a few years ago. when we had a lot of snow, a lady came up to the pulpit and said, Mark, you didn't know me, I didn't know you, but you saw that I was stuck in the snow and you came and made a difference in my life, and he helped push her out. There were many examples like that. So I think he would encourage us from where he is now.
Thank you very much for coming in and talking about it.
Bye-bye.
Ken Roffel is gathering signatures for a petition to push for zero tolerance against drinking drivers. He's traveling around the Lower Mainland now, and his Cross Canada campaign will start later this spring.